on the phone with John Boehner, his former archenemy. They are furiously at work. Unfortunately, what they're scheming over is how to undo what we did last week, blocking the last worst trade agreement that America will ever have.
Oregon Democrat Pete DeFazio on the House floor yesterday, and Congressman DeFazio expressing frustrations that, quite frankly, a lot of us feel about that Trans-Pacific Partnership deal. You heard the congressman say that's the worst trade agreement America could ever have. Well, today the House passed Trade Promotion Authority. The TPA is very important to lay the groundwork for the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It guarantees that trade deals negotiated by our president will get an up or down vote, and that's it, no amendment. The House voted the TPA without a trade assistance program today. That program is supposed to help workers who lose their jobs because of the international competition from the trade deal, but there's still a long road ahead before TPA officially gets to the president's desk as it heads back to the Senate floor, and some procedural legerdemain to move it along. Speaking of legerdemain, let's bring in some folks who have mastered the art of advocacy and argument and discussion. It's our panel. From Newsmax Washington, we've got Stephen Cobb, the former General Counsel for the Democratic Party of Virginia, and Skyping in from Las Vegas, Megan Barth, political commentator and the founder of ReaganBaby.com. So, Megan, as a Reagan baby, what's your take on the House vote today?
I have been very skeptical of the TPP ever since it went underground in the bowels of Congress and the American public was not allowed to read it, much similar to Obamacare. Actually, many of the congressmen have not read the bill, as discovered by my congressman, Dana Rohrabacher, when he took the floor and questioned the ambassador and another bureaucrat on exactly what was in the TPP. And they really couldn't answer him. They would give him platitudes of how great this TPP agreement was going to be. And when Dana asked them a simple question of did they read it, they both did not. So this happened again with Obamacare, and the Democrats were given a resounding defeat by the American people for not having read the bill and passing a bill that we didn't want. The same thing is being done with this treaty.
And yet, to be fair about it, Megan, you take a look at the House Democrats, they didn't support it. A few did, and they made the crucial difference with the Republicans. Stephen, where do you stand on this thing, and how do you assess it right now?
Well, JD, I think we're throwing you a curveball today. It looks like Megan is speaking against the fast-track trade legislation, and I'm actually personally in favor of the fast-track trade legislation. I hope that something can get passed. It's very important that we can keep these trade channels open as we continue to expand and create new markets for American products abroad. This is going to be an important step, and I hope that with the legislation going back over to the Senate, that there's a way that both the TPP and the TPA can find their way to getting passed and to the president's desk for signature.
Well, it is interesting to kind of see a role reversal here, but Megan, when I take a look at this, and it's almost as if you have the Washington establishment, Republicans and Democrats on one side, and people listening to folks back home on the other side. You've got a real problem still with this thing, huh?
Well, I do, because no one's being upfront and honest. Dana Rohrabacher asked a question. Our patents, our IP, are subject to publication prior to approval within 18 months. At an 18-month mark, all of our patents are fair and free game to have the folks over in China or whomever look at the patents globally. This is eliminating our competition and infringing upon our IP.
Well,
they also couldn't answer that question. So there's too many questions. I don't like how this fast track is going through Congress.
And we will have to fast track. We will have to fast track to another subject with 2 minutes left here. The Pope released the first papal encyclical on the environment. In it, Pope Francis stresses climate change as, quote, one of the principal challenges facing humanity. Now, on the campaign trail earlier this week, Jeb Bush, in a very respectful way, said, you know, religious leaders really ought to stay away from political issues. Stephen, do you agree with that?
Well, I don't think that's simple. One of the things the Pope hit on was the fact that climate change is very real, and it's the science that 97% of the field agree on. But he cast it in a very different light, not so much under the auspices of politics, but in his case, an issue of faith, an issue of how it's going to affect us as citizens, how it's going to affect those in need, and ways that individuals and governments can take a part in the fight against that climate change, and therefore
take it right
lift
there.
those up around it. So
we'll take it right there, Stephen, and I appreciate that assessment. The final 30 seconds to you, Megan Barth. Did you ever expect Pope Francis to team up with Al Gore in terms of calling out, quote, deniers on this subject?
Not really, considering that the Pope practices religion and climate change or global warming as a religion. Then no, I'm not really surprised. And the 97% figure that Stephen threw out there is absolutely false, as was the hockey stick that was created by government-funded scientists.
We will have to leave it right there. I am so sorry that four-letter word time is in our way. Stephen Cobb, Megan Barth, thanks to you both. Now, Newsmax wants to send one lucky couple on a 7-day Silver Sea cruise to the Caribbean this winter. The luxury cruise aboard the Silver Win is the trip of a lifetime. To win it, you need to enter our sweepstakes. Visit newsmax.com/sweepstakes to enter. That's newsmax.com/sweepstakes.